How's it going, YouTube? Today we're going to be watching the second part to the Second Punic Wars by OverSimplified. We're going to be finishing this up. We watched the first half about a few days ago, so I'm excited to see how this ends. If I'm remembering correctly, we finished off with Hannibal making it into Italy after getting past all the devilish mountains. So I'm excited to see what's going to be happening next. But without further ado, consider joining the Discord. Leave any recommendations down in the comments below. Maybe leave a like or subscribe or come by the live stream. All right, plugs over. Let's get into it.
This video was made possible by Incogni. Use code OverSimplified in the link below for an exclusive 60% off an annual Incogni plan. Also, make sure to grab our Roman Consul U2s before it's too late. Don't make me mention it a third time, or I'll you know what.
Dude, he'll fuck your mom!
Hannibal's army had survived its famous crossing of the Alps, and he was now in Italy. With Hannibal's arrival, the Roman consul Scipio hit the ground running. In typical Roman fashion, he marched his army straight at the enemy, and Hannibal began preparing for his first combat with Rome on Italian soil. Before the battle, Hannibal wanted to inspire his men, so he staged a gladiatorial death match between captured Celt prisoners, with the winner getting prizes and freedom. He then explained that the whole thing was a metaphor. A metaphor? For what? You! These warriors are you! You're trapped in Italy with no escape. Your only choice now is to fight and win. What about the dead guy? That's you if you don't win. And the prizes? That's what you stand to gain by winning. And the fact that I've soiled myself in all this excitement? No, that's not part of the metaphor.
Aw.
Okay. Hannibal also smashed in the head of a goat. Again, for inspiration.
What? I was about to give him like a lot of credit there. He came up with that cool, inspirational, motivational death match. I don't know why he wasted some good men, I'm assuming, on a death match, but it made sense. That metaphor was pretty good. And then he smashes in the head of a goat. I thought you sacrifice goats by stabbing it in the heart, or you gut it or something like that. Why smash it in with a brick or a rock? I mean, relatable. I mean, I piss my pants all the time out of excitement, so I get it.
Scipio, on the other hand, now arriving in the area, opted for the more classic route of a rousing pre-battle speech. Look at them, men. Weak, starved by the Alps, while we are the strongest military in the world. This will be easy, like 10,000 horse-sized ducks fighting a baby-sized baby. It'll be like Mike Tyson in his prime, kicking a baby. A tug of war between 10 sumo wrestlers and help me out here, Ralph. A baby, sir? Yes, that's it. A baby. The point is, there is absolutely no possible way we could lose a battle this easy. So, if everybody's ready, on my mark, charge!
All right, now how do they fuck this up? Okay, before we get to the spoilers of it, how do they lose this? Because everything he says is correct. They're starved by the Alps. How do you not win this? It's easy. It's like all the things that he said fighting a baby. It's the easiest fight ever. Oh my god.
The Battle of Ticinus was over almost as soon as it had begun, as the Romans found themselves completely outmatched by Hannibal's famed lightning-fast Numidian cavalry.
The what?
A key element in Hannibal's devastating double envelopment tactics. In the chaos, Scipio was wounded. Thankfully, according to some ancient writers, his handsome 17-year-old son, Scipio the Younger, saw his father fall. Scipio the Younger supposedly saved his father, and in the process, earned himself a lot of daddy's kisses.
Aww.
The Romans ended up fleeing the area, destroying the bridge behind them as they went. For a nation so overtly confident in victory, believing Hannibal to be an easy kill, the Romans found themselves running away with their tail between their legs. It was humiliating. And you know who thought so as well? The Celts. They began flocking to Hannibal's side, just as he'd hoped. Even Celtic troops fighting for Rome in the Roman camp began to reconsider. Man, I'm thinking we should try to join Hannibal.
Wait, was that a Fallout New Vegas reference? Was that a Fallout New Vegas reference that I missed? Fuck. I mean, they have two options, right? The Celts. They can either join with Hannibal, or they can continue to be in the situation that they're in. So after seeing them get defeated, I mean, I would join up. You're stuck between a rock and a hard place, so might as well join the guy who maybe you can get a better lot in life if you obtain victory. It's better than just maintaining the status quo that you hate, right? So, oh, Caesar on the operating table? Oh, that was the meme? Oh, okay. I get that one. I get that one. So, did they not know about the pincer maneuvers that they have? Was there no intelligence that they had of like, oh, look out, there's going to be horses. There's going to be these horses with the pointy sticks that are going to go around you, because I've played some RTS games. And yeah, what you need to be careful of is having the cavalry come from behind and just fucking smacking your ass. That's what they're good for. I've played Total Warhammer like once, and that's literally something they tell you in the tutorial. So what did they not read the tutorial before they went into battle? These are supposed to be the military generals of the time? Pathetic. I could have done better. That's a joke. I couldn't. I would pee my pants out of fear.
I hear you. Maybe we should bring him a gift. What do you think he'd like? Oh, I know. Hey, Hannibal. We want to join your side, and we brought you a present.
Oh, no.
A gift? For me? I hope it's Roman heads. Oh, please. Oh, please be Roman heads. How did you know? Running away from Hannibal was humiliating enough, but having dozens of Romans beheaded in the night, now that's embarrassing.
That's a dick
Ticinus
move.
had been a relatively small battle, but the psychological impact it had early on was huge, and it was only just a taste of what Hannibal was capable of. Despite the shocking initial loss, however, Rome still didn't seem to fully understand the danger posed by the monster now loose in their territory. The Senate was full of excuses. It's those traitorous Celts. That's why we lost. Yeah.
Oh my
and it
God.
was a cavalry battle. Wait until Hannibal faces our almighty legions and our...
But what is the excuse like, oh, it was a cavalry battle. Shouldn't they have known? Yeah, did they skip the tutorial? Oh, it was a cavalry battle. That's still a battle. You should have gone in knowing that there would be cavalry. This isn't like Hannibal isn't an unknown force, I'm assuming, to them. They should know who he is. It sounds like they do from the past video. How do they not hear of, man, that guy's got some sick cavalry out there. Better be prepared for it. What, did they just assume they all died on the Alps? Don't assume anything. It makes an asset of you and me. As a certain tank commander would put it, this qualifies as as a significant emotional event. They're being very emotional. Although this is exactly how it would work. What percentage of people in the council, the Senate, actually served in the military at some point? Because I know that there have been past Roman emperors that, or not emperors, but people in the Senate and whatnot that would have actually served in the military, so they would understand a little bit more than people who were always civilians or whatnot. What about these guys? Were a majority of them just not ever in the military? Because this is exactly how it works, even in today's time, where the political leaders have no military experience, and then they're like, oh, here, this is how you should do your job. And they have no idea what they're saying, and they're like, oh, no, that's a terrible idea, but they have to do it anyways because the higher-ups in the political seats told them to do it. A lot of them served, but never in fighting roles. Well, then, yeah, that's not very useful. Like, there has to be a balance between the political people and the military people, because one solution usually isn't the correct thing. You need to have some compromises or a joint effort. But having it all from people who have no battle experience that's very relevant to what they're fighting right now is completely useless. Completely. Like any and every empire, they always fall. Now, the American Empire will never fall. I mean, we're not an empire. We're not an empire. Shh, shh, shh. Don't, shh, shh. People don't like it when you say that.
Consul was bald. Once he faces our other fully follicled consul, then he'll really pee his pants. That other consul, Longus, had been in the south all this time, preparing to invade Africa. He had seen some success, even capturing Malta. But then he heard the news. Hannibal's in Italy? And I'm being ordered home? But I was gonna be the big boy.
Wait a minute. If you flip that newspaper around, This is inaccurate. If you flip that newspaper around, it would be backwards. It would be backwards and he couldn't read it. Wow. Wow, dislike the video. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Boy, I was going to invade Carthage and win the war. Well, you can be a big boy at home. No! Does somebody need a nap, sir? No! 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 Consul Longus brought his army on the long journey north. When he arrived in the area to decisively neutralize Hannibal, the two consuls joined their forces together, creating a double consular army. But the two consuls weren't exactly on the same page. Having a nice rest there, old man? I'm wounded, Longus. Pathetic. You don't understand. He's more dangerous than we thought. Maybe for you. Whoops. Listen, we can't just march straight at him like we normally do. We need to train our men through the winter, and we'll try again in spring. Sorry, I don't take advice from a bowling ball. Hey, I'll kick your ass, Longus. Any day now.
Here he comes.
I'm coming. Just you wait. Oh, Scipio, you feeble old man. Scipio was apparently quite cautious after his recent encounter with Hannibal, while Longus, typically Roman, couldn't wait to give Hannibal a swirly. So who would get their way? Well, when two consuls joined their forces, it turned out the Romans had an interesting system in place. They would each take turns being the one in charge. Consul 1 would lead one day, then Consul 2 the next. Back and forth, back and forth. As you can imagine, when the two consuls didn't agree, things didn't go so well. In this case, due to Scipio's injury, Longus probably assumed even more command than normal. Hannibal had Celtic spies in the Roman camp. He fully understood the Roman system and Longus's hot-headed nature, and he knew he could exploit it. For goodness sake! What's wrong, sir? I'm trying to order some pizza, but I keep getting fed all these personalized ads about being a hothead. I'm
Oh, here comes an ad. Is this an ad? Are we getting an ad?
not a hothead, am I? No, sir. Look at this. Butt insurance? Who would buy butt insurance? Yeah, that sounds really stupid.
Oh my God, it's this
It
guy
seems like
again.
a lot of data brokers have collected data on you. They could sell that data to Hannibal. What? But don't worry, because you can get rid of that data with today's wonderful sponsor, Incogni. Hooray! I've been getting at you for some time to protect your personal data online.
Wait, but that's Nord.
But you're a nimwit, aren't you? You didn't do it, did you? Typical. And now would you look at that? Tons of data brokers have collected a heck of a lot of your personal data and might sell it to third parties like advertisers or insurance companies without you even knowing. Ever wonder where Sally from the Butt Insurance Company got your name, number, address, social security number, and favorite color from? Probably a dirty data broker. We could painstakingly contact the hundreds of brokers that have our data and politely ask them to delete it. That process would only take the average human about 3,000 years. And that's why
Someone do the
need
math. Is that
Incogni.
correct?
I was shocked to find how many data
No,
brokers
we're not gonna skip.
Incogni had tracked.
No, we're not going to skip the sponsor. If you're watching the video, if you want to skip it, go right ahead. But no, I'm not going to skip the sponsor. They deserve me. They deserve my time to watch it. They got a sponsor. I'm going to watch it.
Potentially selling my data. But all I had to do was create an Incogni account.
No,
give
I'm
them
not
permission
watching the
to work
sponsor
on
to
my
inflate my
behalf,
runtime.
then
I'm doing
sit
it
back and
out
let
of
them do all the
courtesy.
hard work for me. And since these data brokers don't stop there, Incogni
I'm doing
will
it out of
continuously work
courtesy.
to keep my data safe with an annual plan. So if you want to protect your personal data too, go to incogni.com/oversimplified to get an exclusive 60% off an annual Incogni plan.
Maybe I'll put in like a
That's
skip time in the video.
/oversimplified.
Sure,
And as
Chat
always,
Killer, don't you call me
you'll
out
be
like this.
supporting my channel. So thank you. Now, where were we? Oh yeah. Roman heads, a double consular army, and a hothead. Hannibal needed to keep smashing the Romans in battle in order to maintain the loyalty of the Celts, and so he was eager to fight another battle. The combined Roman force possibly outnumbered him, so he
Oh, I have like a question because and maybe I'm missing it, but what's like the time scale for all of this? Because like these men over here are 40,000, like half of them or something came from all the way down at the bottom of Italy. How long did that take them? Like, yeah, I'd imagine it takes them a long time. Of like how long has it been since Hannibal arrived in Italy? Because it doesn't look like they've made very much progress, but it makes sense. They're in enemy territory and everything. But You know, it's like, it's been a month, 2 months, stuff like that. Welcome, Ryan. It's just, the time scale is like very confusing for me, but that's a me issue I get. So I was just wondering, you know, travel was a lot harder back then.
Carefully crafted a clever trap, and he made sure to spring it while Longus was still in charge. The plan began with his army getting an early night's sleep. All right, boys, time for
Oh, look at his
out.
plushies.
Sorry, but we got a big day ahead of us. Tomorrow, we're gonna massacre the Romans. Good night, boys. Dream of revenge. Gorzog, send out the cavalry.
Who the fuck?
That night, Hannibal's Numidian cavalry made their way over to the Roman camp, arriving just before dawn. Hey, Romans! Wakey, wakey! What the? What's going on? Hey, Longus, your butt smells like a butt. It does not! Scipio! Awaken the troops! Longus, these playground insults are clearly meant to lure you out. Well, it's working! Send out the troops! Longus, it's clearly a trap. And I'm falling for it! Send out the troops! Hey guys, wake up. You're heading out for battle. What? But we haven't had breakfast. We're skipping breakfast!
You can't skip
I
breakfast.
don't think you can do that. As the Romans
Yeah, you
hurried
can't
out of
skip
camp,
breakfast.
The Numidians began luring them back to the Carthaginian camp, where these gentle angels were just awakening from their slumber. Eat up, boys. We're
Aw.
having pancakes.
He's so
While the
nice.
Carthaginians were enjoying their hearty breakfast,
I like how they're making Hannibal seem like the more good guy, even though I'm pretty sure he loses in the end. Like, you know, I mean, I guess the good guy doesn't always win, but it's very entertaining of how they're representing Hannibal, especially from, you know, I'm from a Western nation and everything, so usually we view the Romans as the good guys in story, even though in history there's not always a good guy. There's sometimes just like the less bad guy, or even just everyone sucks. Also, thank you for the follow, tax fraud.
the starving Romans were still on their way. Hurry up! We have to catch those Numidians. Hey, why have you stopped marching? Longus, there's a freezing river in front of us.
Just cross it.
Well, get your gluteus maximus in the water! All right, boys, time to lather up. This oil will insulate you from the cold. It also smells like lavender. There's the Carthaginian camp. Get ready to fight, men. Sir, I think the water from the river is beginning to ice over. I can't move. Oh, I'm sorry. You thought war would be fun? Sitting around a
Wait,
nice
why
hot
isn't he
campfire
frozen?
playing Truth or Dare with your friends? Welcome to the real world! Truth. Who do you like? Sharon. Hey, look, guys. The Romans are here. Having perfectly orchestrated events so that his enemy was cold, tired, and hungry, while his men were well rested and covered in oil. When the two sides engaged
They're
one
gonna be
another,
slippery.
the Romans were in no condition to fight. And the cherry on top, the previous night, Hannibal had sent out an elite force of men led by his brother to go and hide behind a bush. They suddenly sprung out, encircling the exhausted Romans, who were then cut to pieces. Once again, Hannibal's superior cavalry and double envelopment tactics had flummoxed the Romans.
How do you fall for the same trick twice? You should be expecting it to happen. I get that Longinus is a fucking idiot, or, you know, at least in the video that they're presenting it, he's a very stupid person, and he fell for a trap, and he didn't fall for it the first time, but still, intelligence. You're supposed to learn from other people's mistakes. That's how you avoid making a mistake yourself in the first place. These are the military generals of the time? Come on. Isn't like the envelopment maneuver even then like a common thing to be a worry of? Isn't that something that everyone knows? Longinus isn't Scipio? Yeah, but didn't Scipio tell them, I'm assuming? I would assume that he was given intelligence on it. Like, this is such a common thing even today that is written in fake war books all the time of like a alternate history, or in the future battles, it's always the pincer maneuver or the envelopment maneuver is a common trope to be the thing that wins the battle because it's very effective.
But the key word at Trebia was control. Hannibal used his intel on the enemy and the environment of the battlefield to carefully control the conditions of battle, creating lots of little advantages for himself that paved the way to success. and concealing troops for an ambush. All of these things are what make Hannibal the genius.
Oh, he hated
remembered as
Scipio.
today.
Well, yeah, it makes
As
sense.
for
And then he
Longus,
would just
he
do the
managed to
opposite.
escape the battlefield
Yeah,
with a
that-
small
okay.
number of troops.
Humans be human.
Disgraced. He didn't want the Senate to find out what had happened, and he began obscuring communications back to Rome. Longus, where have you been? We've been looking for you. Nowhere in particular. Longus, 30,000 men are missing. Do you know where they are? They're taking a bath. 30,000 men? All in a bath?
Hot.
Yes. Longus, what's under that rug? Aurora Borealis? Aurora Borealis? Oh, well, that's my consulship over. Good luck with Hannibal. Bye. Trebia had been a disaster for the Romans.
Wow.
And as even more Celts began flocking to Hannibal, Rome largely lost its control over Cisalpine Gaul. In Rome, complacency turned to alarm. Hannibal had outwitted them on their own soil and inflicted a costly defeat. But with that, Scipio and Longus's terms as consul were over. They were replaced with two new consuls.
Dude, that guy looks
Servilius
mad.
And Flaminius.
Why does Flaminius look like a sleep-deprived Ben Shapiro? Oh my god, he looks pissed. I would hate to meet that guy on the battlefield. I feel like he's going to eat my blood. Oh my goodness, just like Ben Shapiro. I don't know why my brain went to him, but like, I'm not crazy. It kind of just looks like a sleep-deprived Ben Shapiro. I love the art side. I love it when he gives one person in the video a very well-defined look. Where it's like, nah, it's not just a circle. It's not just a circle. We'll give him an actual face. And that's how you know he's going to be important, either for good or worse.
The Romans may now have begun to realize the trouble they were in.
Sleep-deprived Ben Short
Hannibal had
Perio.
shown in invading Italy. The Romans had expected to be the ones controlling this war. Remember, they thought they were going to invade Carthage. Now their plans lay in ruins, and they were levying 11 new legions to deal with the threat. Hannibal had completely redefined the war. But Hannibal had a little problem of his own. Things had gone well so far, but the Celts were notoriously fickle, and Hannibal needed to ensure he maintained their alliance and his base of support in Italy. Any Celts he captured fighting for Rome, he treated extremely well and allowed them to return to their homes. But the longer he hung around in their territory, eating all their food and leaving beard trimmings in their sinks, the more resentful they may become. They wanted to go south and plunder some Roman booty, and Hannibal also hoped to sway Rome's other Italian allies in the south to his side. So from here, the path was clear.
Man, it really seems like this is going for an all-out conquering. This seems it's more than just like, oh, we want to beat them in the war. This feels like the attempt is to completely destroy Rome, which I guess is his goal because he hates all Romans and everything. But was everyone on the enemy side okay with that? Is that what they're going for? Where it's like, no, we're not just trying to win the war. No, we want to utterly annihilate Rome. So Hannibal, you go and do that. Take it all over. Because this is what it feels like they're leading up to. I mean, he's not going to succeed, because I'm pretty sure that's not how the Roman Empire fell, but I'll find out. Man is going to learn why mercenaries don't make good war partners. Yeah, mercenaries, they only fight by your side up until the point that you can continue to pay them. And then once you run out of money, or you can no longer pay them, or you've gotten on their nerves enough, they're like, fuck this, I don't owe you anything. I'm not allegianced with you. Fuck off. And then they just go and do whatever else they want to do. Execute Order 66. I don't know if that's going to work. I don't think the Romans were Jedi. Not that, I guess Order 66 would work on anything.
Hannibal had to move south. Just one problem. There were two main routes Hannibal
There's
could
so
take
many
to move
mountains.
south. And wouldn't you know it, that's exactly where the two new Roman consuls had taken fortified positions. If Hannibal tried to move on them, he'd be fighting from a disadvantaged position and could be bottled in. There is a third option. Ooh, tell me. We could move through this vast impassable marshland flooded with dirty, stinky, disease-infested water that at times would come up to our necks. But there's no way we would attempt that, right?
I like how they ask that. You went through the Alps. Of course you're going to do that.
That'd be crazy, right? Hannibal? Hannibal's 4-day trek across the Arno marshlands was hell on earth. Almost as crazy as when he crossed the Alps. Imagine 3 full days, unable to sit or lie down, because there's nowhere to sit or lie down.
Oh my
Meaning
God.
4 full days without sleep, slugging through heavy mud. You contract cholera, your foot falls off.
What?
And Jim Bob directly in front of you won't stop pooping in your path. In fact, everybody's pooping in your path. Some delirious, sleepless men would see clumps of mud
Oh, no.
and say, man, I could just sink into that. And
then they do.
would. When pack animals died, it gave nearby men a chance to rest, but only for a few moments, before they were whipped back into line. Even Hannibal himself couldn't escape the torture of it. Hey Hannibal, if we see a Starbucks, can we stop? I need to take a leak.
Oh,
What? Geez, Hannibal, looks like you picked up a nasty eye infection. Normally for this sort of thing, we just wash it out with some clean water. But as you can see, water everywhere, but it's full of Jim Bob's poop. No worries, Doc. I'll just take care of it myself.
wow, badass.
That'll be $3,000. When the now possibly one-eyed Hannibal and his army emerged from the swamp, they...
Wait, why is it possibly? Do we not know for certain if he pulled out his own eye? Or, maybe he didn't pull it out himself, but do we not know that he had an eye removed? That seems like something we'd know. That seems like something that we would expect, right? What? How is that, like, possibly? And I'm glad that they showed that right there, because I was about to ask, why does it always seem like the generals and the people in charge are always like, yeah, I know that this sucks, but, like, I'm totally fine. Everything's okay. I know, like, the men are in trouble, but because I'm a general, I'm, like, immune to all of this. Why does it always seem like that? I get that maybe it's just, they have better conditions. Also, maybe they're generals because they're stronger and more fit and smarter and everything. So maybe that's it. But I always find that interesting where it's like all these bad things and we lost thousands of men, but we didn't lose the general. Like, he survived somehow. It's like, why did they have to, is it divine intervention? What's going on?
They were shattered, but he had just managed to slip 50,000 men right past the Romans into rich Etrurian lands, where he could replenish his supplies, and his Celt allies could go crazy, securing Roman loot and booty.
Oh no, his
As
butt!
fields
Did
and
he get
villages
insurance?
went up in flames. One Roman consul couldn't help but notice. The hot-headed Flaminius, feeling it was his responsibility to protect these lands, rather than waiting for his co-consul to come join him, immediately left to go chase Hannibal. Now, this Flaminius was an interesting character. He was what the Romans called a new man. He came from the lower plebeian classes of Roman society, and as a result, he reportedly had kind of a screw-you attitude to the establishment, and a big old arrogant chip on his shoulder. Picture Sid Vicious wearing a toga. That's Flaminius. And Hannibal, thanks to his spies, knew everything. Just as with Longus, Hannibal knew Flaminius was just the kind of man he could lure into a trap. Hannibal led Flaminius to the entrance of a narrow pass along the north shore of Lake Trasimene. Flaminius watched as Hannibal's army entered the pass. I've done it. I've spotted the enemy. Sir? That big follow us sign seems kind of like they're trying to lure you in. Yes, Gareth, and I'm taking the bait. Sir, this really seems like a trap. Yes, Gareth, and I'm falling for it. Daylight was fading, so for now, the Romans set up camp. The two armies encamped across the lake from one another.
Okay, here's another question for people. Yeah, oh no, not again. They're falling for it again. How do you set up camp in like these military times? Because I get that in the artistic representation of it, they have all the logs and everything. How long does that take? When they set up camp, do they get it that fortified? How do you do that? I mean, I guess they're tired. Do they have to go and just chop down all that wood, build up the base? Wouldn't that be prime time to attack? I don't know much about olden military setup and everything, so it goes over my head. But it seems like a good time to attack. Where it's like, oh, sir, they're currently building up their base. Their men are going to be distracted and also very tired as they're building up stuff. Don't ask me how should I know. I don't know. I'm asking you in the YouTubes. Packing light, it takes about 3 hours to settle in with this gear. I LARP sometimes. Really? Only 3 hours? Okay, that's a very narrow window, so I get why they probably wouldn't attack during that time. No, that makes sense.
and night fell over the two camps. In the morning, Flaminius would catch up to Hannibal, and he would be the hero of Rome. For now, the Romans got nice and comfy in their beds. Good night, Flaminius. Good night, Rome. Good evening, Hannibal. During the night, Hannibal ordered total stealth.
Don't they have guards to alert them?
Tens of thousands of troops scaled the wooded hills above the pass, completely undetected by Rome's scouts.
Oh, thank you for the follow.
Let's go, girls.
Thank you,
Flaminius
Left
took
Toe.
off across the lake shore to try to catch Hannibal. As he did, even the weather seemed to be on Hannibal's side. A thick fog rose from the surface of the lake,
Oh, that's lucky.
obscuring visibility. Look at this. This is perfect. The mist will obscure our approach. Hannibal will never see me coming. Sir? Why does it sound like 50,000 Carthaginians are charging down the hill towards us? You mean 50,000 Carthaginians are charging right into my trap? The Romans found themselves completely hemmed in on all sides.
Oh, yeah.
With zero visibility in the fog, the fighting was terrifying and chaotic. Troops were pushed into the lake in their heavy armor, where they were either cut down or drowned. And Flaminius, who likely stood out like a sore thumb in his consul attire, caught the attention of one Celt warrior, with his head possibly swirling with thoughts of how the Romans had decimated his homeland. According to the ancient writers, this Celt took his chance.
Oh, shit. Oh! Ben Shapiro, no!
In the 3-hour-long massacre, 15,000 Romans were killed, and an equal number captured. An entire army completely wiped out, along with their consul. During the battle, the Roman vanguard had managed to break through at the front and climbed the hill above the fog. When the mist cleared, what they saw was a blood-red lake and a sea of Roman bodies.
Jesus.
Worse yet, when the other consuls sent cavalry to try to aid Flaminius's doomed legions, they too were caught and defeated. A double disaster.
How do they just not send, like, more? Because weren't they outnumbered too? Didn't that say that they were outnumbered? And thank you for the biddies. Wasn't it like 30,000 to 50,000, with the 30,000 being on the Roman side? What? This is your homeland. Shouldn't you have more troops that you could send? Isn't that a thing? What is, like, how do you, what?
Rome went into a frenzy. For the second
Hey, welcome,
time,
Mina.
Hannibal had completely decimated an entire Roman army. Romans were dying by the tens of thousands. Common citizens began flocking to the city for safety. Women waited by the city gates in tears, hoping to hear news of loved ones. This one man, having just led his battered army across the Alps the previous year, now stood less than 100 miles from Rome. To this point, he had been a problem. Now, Hannibal was a crisis. And in a crisis, Rome took desperate measures. They actually had a system in place when dealing with an emergency of this magnitude. They would forgo their two-consul power-sharing system and instead temporarily give one man near total power and authority to be as decisive as he needed and hopefully salvage the situation.
Wait a minute.
This all-powerful position in Rome's government had a name: dictator. It's actually where we get the word. But unlike modern dictators, Roman ones didn't score perfect rounds of golf or ride bears through the Siberian tundra. They held their power for just 6.
Those are all true claims by those dictators. Those are all true claims that Kim Jong-il, I think it was. I think that's the father. Scored a perfect game of golf, like the first time he ever did it. And yeah, what's his, I already forgot his name. The guy from Russia, Putin, that he has ridden bears, and that one time he just went diving for no particular reason, and he found ancient artifacts. They just materialized there for him to claim. Yeah, those are real claims. Yeah, I'm expecting this to be Caesar. When they were like, ooh, a new challenger has approached, I'm like, this is going to be Caesar, isn't it? It's not Caesar? Oh shit, it's the wrong time? Wow. Huh. I was really expecting Caesar the way they were hyping it up. I don't know who it's going to be then. Interesting. I watched it for this video and it makes me want to go back on Imperial Rome. Oh, this is a good video. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
6 months before they were required to give it up. And in Rome's hour of need, the man chosen to be dictator in 217 BC, one of the most highly esteemed members of the Roman Senate, Fabius Maximus. So how would Fabius, as dictator, confront Hannibal? Well, Fabius understood that marching all of Rome's young men straight into a one-man meat grinder was bleeding Rome dry. Hannibal was clearly too dangerous to face head-on in battle. However, he was also stuck in their territory, with dwindling manpower and forced to live off the land. It wasn't a sustainable position to be in long term, and he could only remain there for so long. So, if Rome avoided battle with Hannibal to prevent any more crippling losses, and instead simply maneuvered around him, blocking supplies and taking out smaller contingents where possible, Hannibal would gradually become weaker, while they would gradually become stronger. And so
isn't that a similar thing that the Romans did? Not Romans, that the Russians did, or the Soviets during World War II, when they would have to like stop the German advances? When they had to retreat, they would burn down all of the stuff, all of the supplies, everything that could have been used by the enemy, because like, okay, you defeated us here, but you are not going to be resupplying with our stuff, because that was the only way that they were going to be able to. Scorched earth. Yep. Okay. I thought so. It works. It's a tough call to make because you're literally destroying your own stuff. But when you're in those tough crises, it seems it's the only option really. And it makes sense and it works. Well, it works until it doesn't, I guess.
So Fabius presented his new idea to the Roman Senate. Okay, guys, I have an idea. See if you can follow me here, okay? Instead of fighting Hannibal, when he approaches, we run away.
What's that from? Is that... Wait, is that a reference to one of his past videos? Because I recognize that statement. That's a very... I don't know where I've heard it.
Fabius's strategy couldn't have been any less Roman. Romans were meant to march headfirst into battle, not run away from it. It seemed cowardly, and Fabius was extremely unpopular. At this point, Hannibal was continuing south.
Oh, the Emu War, that's where it's from.
His army fed, and he was still aiming to undermine Rome's alliances in the south. As he went, in a calculated display of aggression, he devastated the Roman countryside and killed many Romans, all in plain sight of Fabius and his army. We're just gonna stand here? Yes. Are you a coward? No. But Fabius, that's my farm. Well, MacDonald, thank you for your sacrifice.
Old MacDonald had a farm.
Think of the stories you'll tell. Old MacDonald had a farm. Shut up. But you know who else hated Fabius's strategy? Hannibal. He understood the danger he was in. Turning Rome's allies against her required Hannibal to keep smashing the Romans in battle. He couldn't do that if Fabius wouldn't fight him. Multiple times, Hannibal tried to goad Fabius into a fight, but Fabius wouldn't bite. Failing that, he tried to turn Rome against Fabius. According to the writer Livy, he burned down all the farms he could, but any farm he learned was owned by Fabius himself. He left well alone. Hey, Fabius,
smart.
Why isn't he burning down your farm? You got some sort of a secret deal with him? What? Of course not. Hey, Hannibal! What? Burn my farm too, please! What? Burn my farm too, please! No! Remember our secret deal! Well, you got to admit, he's a genius. Hannibal's problem,
That's very
however,
smart.
was that
I wouldn't have thought of that.
He had to stay on the move to keep supplying his army from the local lands. At one point, he entered Campania, one of the richest regions of Italy. Great for resupplying, and great for showing up Fabius in front of Rome's South Italian allies. But he was caught in a valley, and Fabius quickly moved to block his escapes. Haha! We've got him! After he's used up all the valley's supplies, he'll starve. Sir? what are all those lights leaving the valley? Is he trying to escape? Lights in plain view.
That's a trap.
Well, that's a trap if I've ever seen one. And we're falling.
Oh my god.
Suspecting a trap, Fabius refused to budge. But other Romans in the valley rushed to confront Hannibal, only to find the Carthaginian army was actually just a herd of oxen with—
He can't keep getting away with this. He can't keep getting away with this. How do people keep falling for his fucking trickery? How does this keep happening? Like, ooh. Also, how are those bulls just remaining so calm while they're literally on fire? I get that it's just their horns and they're covered, but that's a lot of fire near their face. I'd be freaking out.
with torches tied to their heads. They then found themselves caught in an ambush. With the Romans distracted, Hannibal's army was able to slip away into the night, unopposed. Classic Hannibal. For all his inaction, the dissatisfied Romans mockingly dubbed him Fabius, the Delayer. But the thing is, Fabius's strategy was probably the best thing he could have done. He was right that constant encounters with Hannibal were bleeding Rome dry, and the time he took allowed Rome some breathing room to recover their forces when they desperately needed to, while putting Hannibal into an increasingly more difficult position. Modern historians view Fabius's strategy as generally a good idea.
Yeah.
To this day, the act of not engaging an enemy, but instead gradually wearing them down, is still referred to as the Fabian strategy. But when Fabius's—
Why is it? This is such a famous picture. What is this from? I've seen this picture in a bunch of like comedy skits related to like politics and whatnot. There was one with like the Last Week Tonight. Well, I get that it's Obama, but from Last Week Tonight, where it's like it was hard to find a picture of Obama not slurping down a cone of mint chocolate chip ice cream or something like that. And then it's like even, oh, was this when they got Osama? Yeah, that's when they took down Osama, because that was the punchline of like, even when they were getting Osama, he had a pint of ice cream in his hand, and they edited this picture so that he's got an ice cream cone. So yeah, it was okay. That's when it was. Okay. Oh, Bishop, thank you for the subscription. Thank you. Look at that subscription right in front of Obama, and Obama is not very happy. He looks pissed.
Is still referred to as the Fabian strategy. But when Fabius's term finally came to an end, the Senate couldn't—
I thought they were about to pants him.
It was time to start fighting again. However, they probably had a little chat about how they were going to go about it. See, Hannibal's tactics up until now had been very sneaky. Or, if you're a Roman, you might say dishonorable. I'm sick of it! Every time we try to take this guy down, we march straight at him. But then, oh no, Hannibal's hiding in a bush. Hannibal's got 30,000 men up a tree. At this point, I'm not convinced my wife isn't just Hannibal wearing a disguise. Look, this time, we obviously have to switch something up. Now granted, we're Roman, so we're gonna march straight at him without thinking.
What is the point of honor? You need pants to be pantsed? Okay, that's fair. That's fair. But what's the point of honor in battle like this? I get you don't want to do certain underhanded things because then it'll be used against you. It's like, you have those rules, quote unquote, of war. But honor, to an extent, is kind of useless in battle when you're going to be losing because of it. Tell honor to the dead. I forget what quote that's from, but just do what you need to do to win without, maybe committing some war crimes that then could be turned around against you or could put you in a negative light in the global superpowers of the time. Because if you do something that's like really bad, that people are like, oh, no, okay, we get that you're at war, but even that's crossing a line, you're going to have other superpowers get involved and be very upset and like, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing? You're going to have a whole problem with that. But beyond that, do what you got to do. The point is that it is expected, yeah, and it's the war crime of the era. Being sneaky was the war crime of the era. I guess. Honor can be used to make negotiations easier. That's true. But I mean, it worked for us in the Revolutionary War in America. So, like, we did sneaky, underhanded things, guerrilla tactics. It helped us. It's a good tactic, especially during these eras where it's like we have these specific formations which we will always do and stuff like that. Civilized warfare was straightforward. Yeah, but as soon as someone decides not to be civilized, Ooh, that's going to be tough on you. It's going to be tough. But if you do win, then it is hard to negotiate with them because you don't have a very good foothold on like, oh yeah, we were being honorable, so let's have a nice negotiation. So you're not wrong. That makes sense. Oh, thank you for the subscription, Jimmy Eat Dirt. Thank you, thank you.
That can't be helped. It's in our blood. But I have
And the British call us out for not fighting fair. Yeah, but fuck the British. Dude, fuck them, dude. Who? British? Ew. Am I right? Am I right, fellow Americans?
March straight at him. We do it with a massive army.
Hey, at least they're doing the massive part.
80,000 men. It won't matter what kind of shenanigans he pulls. He can hide in all the bushes he wants. There's no way he can possibly beat off 80,000 men.
Why?
You know what I mean?
Why?
So it was. With 2 new consuls, Rome put together a massive army, the biggest Rome had ever fielded, to put Hannibal away once and for all. To gather the men required, 2/3 of them ended up being completely inexperienced. But how much experience does it take to be expendable war fodder? As this massive army set out in the summer of 216 BC, the Romans knew they needed to win this battle. Just one victory over Hannibal would likely be enough to end his entire campaign. And this time, their overwhelming manpower gave them confidence they could do.
Oh my god, Sentinel, thank you for the subscription. Thank you so much. Oh, Bishop, thank you for giving a sub. Thank you.
Do it. Hannibal had taken position at the town of Cannae, where he had captured an important Roman supply depot. With Fabius gone, Hannibal knew a battle was likely coming.
Oh, see, now that newspaper is correct.
On his terms. But when his men looked out at the Roman camp, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. That army's huge! There's no way we can possibly beat off all these men. How are we gonna beat off all of these men? You know what I mean. I think he's right, Hannibal. Hannibal is then said to have replied, Gisco, my friend, don't worry. There may be a lot of them, but amongst their ranks, there's not a single man named Gisco. This joke was apparently so funny that his officers began to laugh and laugh. And when his men in the camp heard the laughter, they were like, hey, they're laughing. I guess that means we're gonna win the battle. Yippee! As for the Romans...
Wait, what was the joke? Did I miss the joke? I thought it was like being a sweet thing of like, don't worry, none of them are named you. When we've got you, we can win the battle. Did the joke literally go over my head?
The consuls were another pairing between an inexperienced hothead and a wise scholar. Although the main historian from this era was good friends with Paulus's family, so take that with a grain of salt. On his day of command, the rash and hasty Varro, despite the apparent pleas from Paulus, sent the army out for battle. And when Hannibal saw this, he did the same. And here comes the single largest battle of the Second Punic War, and one of the most renowned battles in history.
This is an interesting place for the battle. It makes, if I'm understanding the lineup of the field of battle here, they have the river on one side, and then is that like a mountain or a very steep hill? I'm assuming because of the coloration that it's not something that's easily traversable. So I'm assuming that this is to the advantage of the Romans, because how are you going to be flanked? It's going to be much more difficult for someone to have like a sweeping maneuver to get behind you. Oh, it's a joke being like, oh yeah, but we have a Hulk. So it was a sweet thing to say. Okay, I guess it just went over my head as being like a joke. But that was a sweet thing for him to say about his friend. About his friend there. So this looks like a good battle position for the Romans, from my inexperienced, position. Oh, they thought that they were safe from flanking before. That's true. I'm hoping, I'm assuming this probably doesn't go well for the Romans, because he's still got to get to Rome. But unless he put them somewhere on the other side of this mountain range or hill or whatever this is, it's going to be hard to get right behind him in a timely manner.
The infamous Battle of Cannae. In all the pre-battle maneuvering, Hannibal was able to ensure his army was fighting from the south. This meant the
flank east and push them into the river? That would be very bad.
And blowing directly into the faces of the Romans. Like I said, control. After wait,
did he plan that?
Hannibal was able to ensure his army was fighting from the south. This meant the seasonal dust-carrying wings were to his back and blowing directly into the faces of the Romans. Like I said, control. After 2 years in Italy, Hannibal's infantry had dwindled to about 40,000. The Romans possibly outnumbered him 2 to 1. Their army was so big that their maniples stretched far deeper than they normally would. The Romans planned to charge Hannibal's thin, weak line like a battering ram and break it. They also chose a narrow battlefield in the hopes it would prevent Hannibal's far superior cavalry from being able to outmaneuver them.
Okay, so it was
They
intentional.
wanted an honorable
Nice.
battle where pure strength rather than trickery would decide the outcome. If Hannibal had his say, however, trickery might end up having a lot to do with it. He ordered his line to position themselves as an outward bulge, with his weakest troops at the very center. Just behind them, out of sight from the Romans, stood the elite Libyan infantry, waiting for their moment to strike. The battle commenced as the mass of Roman troops smashed into the Carthaginian center. The shape of Hannibal's line ensured the overwhelming weight of the Romans hit his weakest troops first, and they were pushed back. Hannibal's outward bulge reversed inward, with the Romans being funneled in towards the weak center. Hannibal had positioned himself at the center to encourage the troops to hold out as long as possible against the Roman onslaught, because while the Romans were unleashing carnage on the center, Hannibal's cavalry needed time to do their job. The heavy cavalry on the left, after a barbaric fight, sent the Roman horse packing, with the consul Paulus even sustaining a severe head injury. He managed to move into the center to keep the battle going. Then, the heavy cavalry turned and approached Varro's cavalry from behind. At the first sight of the coming Carthaginian envelopment, Varro ordered his horsemen to flee the battlefield. The Carthaginians had won the cavalry battle. But back in the center, according to some accounts, Hannibal's line did eventually end up caving to the massive weight of the Romans, and they began to flee.
They got routed.
The Romans pushed deeper, and organization within the army likely broke down as they became a giant mass, trying to massacre the fleeing Carthaginians. They didn't realize that they were playing right into Hannibal's hands. At that moment, Hannibal's elite units, having done no fighting yet, and therefore fresh as a daisy, turned and smashed into the Roman sides. Many of these troops were wearing Roman helmets and armor they had picked up after previous battles, and the confused Romans may not have even realized they were the enemy.
That is so sneaky. Hey, welcome, Flame. We're watching the Punic Wars. That's so sneaky. What the fuck? Wow. Oh my God. Now that's I feel like that's a little too far. That's a little bit much. Yeah, that's a literal war crime even today, right? Wow, this is the most famous flank in history. I can see why. Wow. That was so good. He used the environment in everything. This was very smart. Very, very smart. Very underhanded. But wow.
As Hannibal managed to regain the composure of his center and encourage them back into
Way
the
to go,
fight,
they literally
the
walked into an
Carthaginian
envelopment.
cavalry swooped in from behind. And look at what lies before you. A military general's wet dream. The total encirclement of a much larger force by a much smaller force. The Romans were trapped. Hannibal had unbelievably managed to use their own superiority in numbers against them. Rather than simply encircling them, he had actually allowed them to use their own immense power and push themselves into an
Look, it's a
encircled
watermelon.
position. This was the genius of Cannae.
Dude, he's so
And
fucking
with that,
smart.
The annihilation began. For hours, the Carthaginians slaughtered the helpless Romans from all sides. The terrified Romans were so tightly packed that at times they couldn't even lift their arms to defend themselves. The killing went on so long that the Carthaginians became exhausted from the non-stop massacre. And by the time the butchery came to an end, the grim toll spoke for itself. To Hannibal's several thousand lost, the Romans suffered 60 to 80,000 dead or captured. Yet another entire army wiped out by Hannibal. Many high-ranking Romans met their end at Cannae. Paulus, for one, but also 80 senators and more. It's been estimated that 20% of Rome's male population aged 18 to 50 died at Cannae.
Jesus.
This was it. Hannibal's vengeance. The stunned Carthaginians, as they searched for their own survivors among the dead, couldn't believe the sight of it. An estimated 30,000 gallons of blood now lay spilled on the battlefield. Rome's defeat at Cannae sent shockwaves throughout Italy. Just as Hannibal had hoped, most of southern Italy now defected to his side, including the second largest city on the peninsula. Wow, Hannibal, this is incredible. What could possibly come next? Next? Jim Bob. I've killed 150,000 Romans. I've turned her allies against her. That's it. That's vengeance. So let me tell you what comes next. Rome surrenders. Their territories are reduced. We recover our lost islands. And Carthage dominates the Mediterranean once again. But sir, what if they don't surrender? Jim Bob, did you miss what just happened? Of course they're gonna surrender. Throughout his campaign, Hannibal...
Can you imagine how different the world would be if they did surrender? If Hannibal actually wins the entirety of this right now? Goodness, that's not even the most captured. At the Battle of Tenenberg, 90k Russians were captured. Jesus, how do you capture that many people? Hannibal has a KD ratio that would make a COD player proud. His KD ratio technically doesn't exist because he hasn't died. Hannibal himself hasn't died. He has to die to have a KD ratio himself.
had shown himself to be very adept at reading the Roman mind. But if he now thought that Rome might surrender, it was the first time he severely underestimated them. And he was about to discover an extremely inconvenient fact about Rome. Rome never surrenders. At a Roman survivors' camp near Cannae, one young officer overheard some troops discussing how they would flee Rome. Drawing his sword, he threatened to cut down any man that would abandon Rome in its hour of need. That officer was Scipio the Younger. But soon enough, the Romans would come to call him Scipio Africanus, the hero of Rome.
Part 3? Oh, part 3, of course there is. Oh my goodness. Oh my god. Really, I mean it. We'll see. It won't take a year, don't worry. Okay. Okay. I hope so, I think. Oh, damn it, he added an I think. Oh my goodness. Dude, I'm still waiting. Okay, don't play that. I'm still waiting on Joseph Anderson's Witcher 3 video. He said it was going to be out soon. When he made the video, it's been like 3 years. So I'm not going to hold out my breath for that, okay? I'm still waiting on that one video by Joseph Anderson. That was an amazing video. I learned so much, and it was so good. It was so good. I learned about how stupid the Romans were at the time, but I can't wait to hear about how Scipio the Great does anything, or Scipio the Africanus. It was the battle from the First World... Oh, that was the battle that had the most capture, was the first battle in a battle in the First World War. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, famous last words on if it comes out soon. Why? I mean, I'm not going to question what he did, but why did he come out with part 2 at the same time as part 1? Why not do like part 1 and then it probably was sponsorships and stuff like that. He was obligated to have them out at a certain time. But usually I would expect them to release the video like maybe a month later, like spread it out, do part 1, then come out a month later or so, part 2, while he's working on part 3 or something like that, but to hold people over. But I'm not going to question him. He makes great shit. He makes good shit. So, all right, well, thank you all for watching on YouTube. Thank you. Leave any other recommendations in the comments below. Leave any other things you want in the comments. Maybe leave a like. Consider subscribing, and maybe join the Discord or come by the stream to watch live. We watch these about at the beginning of each stream. So until next time, though, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye bye.